Inside the Birds is back. It's Geoff, Mosher, and Adam Caplan. And man, do we have a lot to talk about. It's not just Inside the Birds that's back. There's a lot of Eagles that are back. There's a lot of Eagles that aren't back. So free agency has begun, Adam, and it's about as crazy and unpredictable and full of a couple of plot twists and turns that we probably couldn't see coming. So we got a lot to talk about in this episode.
And I don't think the Eagles did either. In fact, I think they might be changing their mind on something. And don't blame reporters. They're just putting out what they're told. It's not their fault. And we'll get to that. You probably know what we're talking about with Darius Slay. And this has been in my 21st year of covering the National Football League. This has been one of the strangest free agencies I've seen. We'll get to that too. We'll explain that. So you guys will go inside what that means. It applies to the Eagles as well. The Miles Sanders signing. That's fascinating because I know that I'm aware of some of the teams that are in it and what they wanted to pay, and the running back market was fascinating. It certainly had, as you said, a lot of twists in terms of plot twists, and I'm really looking forward to get inside this.
Yeah, and as we reminded people last podcast, and I think it's more important to repeat it now. You know, we talked about former Eagles legend Frank Gore. We mentioned last year J.D. McKissick. Like, just because it's out there in a report that it's going to happen doesn't mean it's going to happen. And of course, you're right. This is a fluid period for a lot of players, so don't blame the reporters. That's a good way of going about it. They're just
I kind of laugh
going off what they hear.
Right on Wednesday. I looking at the personnel notice, which we reporters are able to see. It's what the GMs, all the teams get it, of all the transactions within the league. Oh, Slay's not on this. This is interesting. But because it was going to be a post June 1. In fact, they actually told reporters it was going to be a post June 1 designation. That's how much it was going to they released. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm
definitely
laughing. I'm like, look, I know things change. We've lived this. Things change. They don't stay the same sometimes.
No doubt about it. All right, you're going to want to be keyed in to the next intel with Greg Cosell, which will come out next week. But he'll obviously give us intel on some of the guys that the Eagles brought in. Right now, as we sit here today, it's one player. It's Rashaad Penny, who I do believe he talked about in this week's intel with Greg Cosell, which came out Monday morning. We strategically moved it from Wednesday to Monday because we were going to ask him to preview running backs and other free agents, knowing that Monday terms were going to start to get leaked. I believe we did ask him about Rashaad Penny as one of the free agent running backs. So you'll have to go and check out the latest intel with Greg Cosell to hear what he said. And then when we come back with him next week, we'll have draft preview. I think we're getting into cornerbacks with him, and then we'll also recap any guys the Eagles brought in. So I'll be interested to hear what he has to say about Rashaad Penny now that he knows Penny is an Eagle. It's an interesting juxtaposition with the type of runner that Miles Sanders was, completely different. We'll get into that a little bit later in this podcast. And of course, for our Patreon subscribers, got a good chance to listen, I should say, to Rick Spielman, former Vikings GM, former Dolphins GM, about what free agency is like. So these last few days, they've been a whirlwind for you as you followed all these crazy signings and wondering how they all came about and what goes into it. Well, Rick did an excellent job breaking down all the different people that are involved for a franchise in preparing for free agency. So check that out. Patreon.com/InsideTheBirds if you want to subscribe and check that out as well. Adam, you had a busy Wednesday night with your chat. Your what do you call it? The chat on Discord.
Yeah, I actually during the Discord I put the Sanders contract. I said 4 years before anyone had it, and then my friend David Newton, who I just saw at the combine, said 4 for 26, I think, something like that.
Yeah,
which is a little bit more than I thought he'd get, because I know other teams are looking at $5 million, but Look, that was interesting, and yeah, the chat was great. Guys they don't know what to make of Slay. We'll get into Slay in a couple minutes here. It was just a very interesting Wednesday night. A lot of twists and turns with the Slay contract, and there were some interesting signings from around the league and safety market. Very fluid. corner market with Bradway or Bradberry coming back, which that was a pleasant surprise. Really, I didn't expect that to happen. I don't know if the Eagles did either, but there was a lot going on with Bradberry in free agency because he was the top guy, more or less. He was the top guy, and he got paid.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. It was surprising because it's surprising, but also not surprising. I thought our intel and what we said about that situation on the podcast was pretty dead on, and we'll get into that in a second. Let's start with Darius Slay. This is one of the more strange and fluid situations, and frankly, depending on what time you're listening to this, more things may have developed. That's the crazy thing about free agency. It just carries on in real time. So at the time of us discussing this right now, like you mentioned, there was a report he was going to be released. This was obviously on the heels of a report a day or two earlier that he was given permission to seek a trade, but there was a report that they were just going to cut ties with him. And at 4:00 came and went on Wednesday. And as you mentioned, he was not waived. He was not cut. He was not released. And I know it was out there on social media, a lot of reporters reporting it. And I was hearing the same thing, that it was not a done deal, that him leaving was definitely not 100% certain. He obviously wasn't released, and there was a chance that he could come back. It just had to be worked out. And so we'll see what happens here. I mean, if they could make this thing work out both sides, then it's almost like, wow, the Eagles were able to bring back James Bradberry and keep Darius Slay. That's pretty good.
All right. So off of that, I'm going to get into a couple things here. First of all, this is my sense, and I asked this in our chat on Wednesday night. Don't you get the sense that they're trying to run it back, that they're trying to go back to try to get that ring?
I get the, well, I said what I said last podcast, knowing that there was going to be fluidity and players coming and going. There was no way Howie was just waving a white towel on this year. I definitely sensed that if there was a contract that he could do that was reasonable, that made sense, he would do it.
Yeah, and remember, I haven't seen the Bradberry breakdown yet in terms of how many voidable years and what the real guarantee is. Because the Javon Hargrave deal is not even close to what was reported. I mean, they can get out of it after 2 years and $41 million. Look, that's still great.
That's, well, years. Yeah, that's still 20 plus, right? Exactly.
Right. So over 2 years, but they can get out of the Niners can get out of it after 2 years. But look, I as someone who reports on these things, I get it. You put out what you get and you move on. So it's fascinating. I got to be honest with you. I just wish the Eagles. We don't know. And obviously, the GM is the one sometimes that gets sentimental. And I know Jeffrey Lurie is always willing to pay. It's what makes him a great owner. But at what point over the next couple hours did they either have second thoughts, or did Drew Rosenhaus say, "Hey, wait a minute," or did both sides say, "Hey, wait a minute, we're going to give you 48 hours to get your best deal. If you can't get something that's close to what Darius is making here, we would like to have him back, but we can't promise you it'd be 17 million. It might be less, and we'll get, and actually maybe it's 12 million, but if he plays 17 games, he has 3 picks, has 27 solo tackles, he gets 18, whatever the case may be. But the Eagles were clearly not willing to bring him back at 17 million. That's why they were going to release him.
Right. So that's crazy because for a guy who plays a premier position, corner, who has made, I believe, 3 consecutive Pro Bowls, what the Eagles are essentially saying is and the guy who wants more money, by the way, he came out and said that. Yes. The Eagles are saying the opposite in that regards, that, 17 is actually high for you. I think that there could be a disconnect, Adam.
Yeah.
On how the public views Darius Slay's season versus how the Eagles maybe this is my speculation on how the Eagles then view Slay's season, because it's hard to ask a guy to make less money when he's coming off that many Pro Bowls, and regardless of whether you think he's like that good or not, like there really aren't that many good corners in the league, and the Eagles went so long without having one that it's kind of gutsy of them to say, of course they did it knowing they've got Bradberry back, but gutsy of them to say, We have to make this work for our
All
side,
right.
not just your side.
Let me throw this at you.
Hmm.
Do you think Jeffrey Lurie said, "Hey, Howie, listen, get him back here. If you anything that's reasonable." I'm just using logic here because this is a total about face. They told reporters they're going to release it with a post June 1, which would tell you they weren't comfortable with 17 million. That would be my read on it. Because
Right.
if they were, they would have kept them at 17 million. Now we'll see if they get the deal done. Did they change their mind? Who the hell knows? It's supposed to be.
That is the great big question. Is this thing
Yeah.
turning around because Darius Slay is going to get more money, or is this thing turning around because Darius Slay is going to get less money?
I don't know.
That's the
I wish I could
fantastic
tell you.
question that I look forward to seeing the answer to. I
This
mean,
is not like the Eagles to do something
yeah,
like this.
it's not. I mean, the tea leaves here would make you think he's going to get less because they were theoretically willing to just let him walk away or
Yeah.
seek a trade. So the
Exactly.
fact that nobody. All right, so let's just extend the conversation a little bit. What do you think? This is why I think there might be a disconnect, right?
Yeah.
If he was given permission to seek a trade and
He
Drew
was.
Rosen is working the phones and he's so good and Jalen Ramsey got a third and a tight end, like what? Nobody offered anything for him? That's to me, that tells me that the league, it's not that they don't like him, but nobody's willing to give up draft compensation for him, which
Well,
usually
I'd
teams
actually
are willing
disagree.
to.
I
Why?
actually disagree. In one area. It's not that they don't want to go compensation. You have to pay him. He wants a new deal.
Well,
That's
that is
what
a good
holds it
point.
up.
That's a
You
good
have
point.
to
But I was
yeah.
going to say, usually though, if you're a cornerback in this league and you've got 3 Pro Bowls to your name all in a row, there, someone's going to want to pay you. So the
Yeah, but
fact
he's
that
32. He's
I
32.
know,
You can't
I
do
know.
that.
You don't think a 2-year deal could have done it? I mean, he only has 1 year of
Honestly,
money here.
if you and I are running the show, I'm like, dude, here's where we're at. We'll give him 1 year fully guaranteed. We'll give him some upside so he can make a little bit more than 17 million to make him happy. There's no guaranteed money in year 2. There's not. He was the 5th oldest corner in the National Football League last season.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
He just turned 32. It's very rare for guys to be playing at 33 years old. You can't do that.
Right.
But look, he played well. Now you could debate whether he should have been a Pro Bowl or not. Remember, he had that unreal game against Minnesota, kind of leveled off there for that. But a solid year. Cosell said that. Greg said he's still a good player.
He did. He did. He had some moments that weren't great, but again, like, because I was listening to people, it's kind of funny how the public opinion of somebody changes sort of once somebody wants more money, the public turns on a guy really quickly. And I was listening to some people like, "Oh, let him go," or this, he wasn't that good.
Okay.
Now
I
maybe
saw
he
that.
wasn't.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not a real elite corner, or maybe the Pro Bowl is more of a popularity reputation thing, like a couple of times when Cox made it, last few years. But I still say, remember the history of this team before Darius Slay got here at that position, right? And then go find me I could probably find me 5 or 6 corners playing at a similar or higher level, but can you find me 10 corners? So I don't think 17 million is all that much really for
I
a good
agree.
quarterback.
I would pay him, but I don't know what their hangup was. I don't know. It just kind of the whole thing was strange.
Yeah.
Gives to the agent permission to seek a trade. The agent can't find him anyone. Then all of a sudden, after they tell reporters that they're going to release it with post June 1, they change their mind. I don't know what happened. So I said, maybe did Jeffrey say, "Hey, you know what? We got Cox back, we got Kelsey back, we got Bradberry back, Boston Scott. Let's try to run this thing back because and we're going to get into some of the other things you've heard and kind of set this up. For this show's only about free agency, obviously. It's all that matters right now. It sets up the draft. This team is still really good and their offense is going to be fantastic. So you bring some of these guys back and who knows?
Yeah, very interesting. So you let's move on because you said bringing some of these guys back. Now, has there ever been a player as young as Boston Scott who has signed as many 1-year deals with the same team as Boston Scott? I mean, it's just
For Scott Boston, yeah.
Scott Boston, right? He
Is
just
that
keeps
3 in a
signing
row?
1 year. Keeps signing 1 year. What's
Is
that?
that 3 in a row? 1 year?
Isn't it?
Or?
Well, 1 year was on like their tender, right? There was RFA tender, and then 1 year was last year, and then this year he's back on another 1-year deal. It's
all right. 20
hard to
20.
find.
Okay, so he had a Okay, so it would be three because, or let me see, 19 and 20 was the same contract. He said signed a 2-year deal. Okay, 21. I'm going to guess was the RFA tender, as you said, and it was sports fans. Yep. And then he signed another one, and he's signing another one. So 3 in a row. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Now the Giants had an opportunity, but
I
they wanted to
know.
bring back Matt Breida, or
So
Breida,
what?
whatever it is. Yeah,
Breida. So they only signed for like over $1 million. Why would you? Boston Scott's a better football player. I'm sorry, he is.
I know, but I'm sure they think it's just coincidental that he kills them all
No,
the
he could
time.
also kick return. He's not a bad kickoff returner.
True.
He could handle. He does. He's just been a good story as a third back. He's like one of the better third backs in the league.
Oh yeah, I mean, on the scale of Wendell Smallwood to Boston Scott, right? Or Darren Sproles, he's on
Yeah,
the way closer
sure,
to the Darren
sure.
Sproles aisle there. He's been fantastic. He's very
So it's
reliable, and we'll never figure out the formula that they use when they want to put him in the game. But it's fun to just wonder when the Boston Scott carry and touches are going to come.
I remember you said that. I don't know if we were watching a game together or you said it on the show. Just the way you said it was so funny. Like there didn't seem to be any rhythm to the way they would use him.
They gave him the first carry of a game once, and then he didn't see the ball again until late in the second quarter.
Yeah,
I just didn't
hilarious,
get it.
hilarious. So anyway, so Boston Scott's back.
Yep.
We're gonna start right now for the guys they've re-signed. Okay, Kelsey, we're told it's the exact same deal as last year. 1 year, 14.25, max 14.75. I think it's a playing time bonus. They did the same structure with a dump. I didn't get the printout of it, but last year we reported that there was a yes, there were voidable years, but there was a dummy salary. It had to be. I don't quite understand it. There was some weird salary in the next year, and it would have to be redone for him to come back, which they did.
Mm-hmm.
And they did that the year before. And I'm to the point now, as I said last year at this time, I don't care what either side says. They don't know if he's coming back or not. Only he knows. And as we said Sunday, here's what happened. He actually made a decision Sunday and told the Eagles Monday morning. And then he obviously went on social media. And by the way, that thing that he did his podcast with Roseman at it was done at the Combine. They didn't know then. It was just, they took some clips of him celebrating.
They were doing shots at tequila.
Right. How
last year was a keg of beer that gets sent to. This year was a shot of tequila. I don't want to even know what next year is going to be all about.
Didn't I see that? Did I not see that on social media? He took a shot at tequila or something.
Yeah.
Hilarious. Yeah. Anyway, so he's back. So for right now, as we speak, early Thursday morning, for their starting offensive linemen are back. It's pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. Look, the theme here will be very familiar for Eagles fans as we kind of talk about other guys. The Eagles are going to build through the trenches. They're going to retain what they can at a reasonable price through the trenches. Obviously, Javon Hargrave got a monster deal. The Eagles don't have a completely blank check for everybody, but I think we said this on the pod. I'm almost positive we said if they lose one, they'll probably retain the other. Javon Hargrave. Yeah. They were able to bring back Fletcher Cox.
Yeah, that's what we expected. You would ask me why I thought Cox would come back and not Hargrave, because they were not going to go in without a veteran D tackle next to Jordan Davis. I didn't say Fletcher Cox is a great player anymore. I'm just saying they wanted to have a veteran as we understood it. That's what they did. And Cox, the deal is up to $10 million. I don't have the breakdown yet. ESPN reported up to $10 million, but I have no idea if it's, is it 5 million and then upside of 10? I have no idea. We don't get the terms yet. So, so he's back. So the D tackle right now, here's what it looks like. Cox, Jordan Davis are your starters. Presumably Jordan Davis will start. Better start. Mel Williams they love him as that third tackle. Tui Pelotu, Noah Ellis, who they want to see, Marvin Wilson. I expect them to add another D tackle, whether it's the draft or free agency. By the time they start in August, you can fully expect them to add another tackle. I couldn't tell you when that's going to be or how, but I expect them to get one.
Yeah, so I was told that Sean Desai has not yet communicated any specific preferences for linemen. A lot of defensive coordinators have them. Almost all of them have size, length, preferences.
Yeah.
We know that.
Right.
That he hasn't yet communicated. Doesn't mean he doesn't have them. He just hasn't. But they know that what he had in Chicago. And in Chicago, he did have a lot of those bigger, stout, long-armed guys who can push the pocket around and maul. So I think that would cause, and this is now me speculating based on that. I'm not sure if they would see Milton Williams as a potential starter because of the short arms that we talked about with Milton, not the best against the run, getting off blocks with that. So he might remain, like you said, how they love him in that rotational tackle role. Sounds like if he brings the same philosophy from Chicago to Philadelphia, that they'd probably want a defensive tackle that fits like the way Fletcher Cox does. And of course, Cox is bringing back, the right size, the right weight, the right arm length, and all of that.
Well, he did have Akeem Hicks, who's super long.
Oh God, what a luxury to have that guy. Yeah,
he was a great player, but he just injuries wore him down. Remember Eddie Goldman?
Of course,
Eddie Goldman and Bilal Nichols out of, was it Delaware or Delaware State? Delaware, I forget where he went.
Yeah, one of those.
So he had a great front three. I mean, he really did for their front. And that Gibson, this is the year when Quinn went off with 18 and a half sacks, whatever it was. Travis Gibson at 7. They had a great D-line rotation. Angelo Blackson, who's been with a bunch of teams. Mario Edwards Jr., you might remember his dad.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about Chicago that year. So they had a great rotation.
Yeah.
The Eagles are a little bit light on D tackle. They have to add. They don't really have much of a choice because Joseph and Sue are up. So you've got Cox, who's an older player at 32, Milton Williams, Davis, Tui Pelotu's coming off a serious injury. We don't know about No Ellis or Wilson, so they need to add one more guy. But again, they could wait till August. Doesn't matter.
Right.
Not a big
deal. Right. Of course, they brought back Brandon Graham on a 1-year deal. So Brandon and Fletch, it's going to come off. They gave hometown discounts. I have no idea, and maybe you do, if they really did have better markets elsewhere. Fletch is getting a little long in the tooth now. He did have 7 sacks this year, which I think is third most of his career. But he also played like the third fewest percentage snaps on defense of his career too. So,
you mean Cox?
What did I say?
Fletcher? Did you say Fletcher's had 7? I don't know what.
Fletcher had 7 sacks. Yeah.
Okay. I was just asking which. I wasn't sure which player. Okay, cool.
Yeah, Fletch, because we know Brandon had like 11 or 10 sacks, right? Yeah, gotcha. Something like that. Yeah.
Cool.
So, but either way, I mean, it's the funny thing will be if these guys. I mean, you expect that these guys will play well enough, right? They've not shown any signs of just falling off the face of the earth. But Howie has come out, said many times, he sort of regrets his 2018 and 19 approach of leaning to, he actually says that his weakness is his guys. It's tough for him to say goodbye to his guys. And there were a lot of D tackles on the market. So, take like a guy like Arden Key. Probably would have fit this defense. Got 3 years.
Our guy.
I love Arden Key.
I know.
Maybe he's better at this stage of the game than Fletcher Cox, but Howie's going to give his guys. Same thing with the guy from the Steelers, right? Larry
Ogunjobi. Yeah.
Ogunjobi. Yeah. Would it have been better to go younger there? I don't know. It's a tough call. It's hard to say goodbye to Fletcher Cox, but that's why Howie says it's his weakness.
Here's the thing on BG. Ordinarily, you're probably going to walk away from a 35-year-old player,
right?
But for him in that role, and how healthy he was, it's one of the people say, "Oh, the medical science now is great and all this." God, folks, he was 34 years old when coming back from a torn Achilles. Greg Ellis, I don't know if I told the story. Greg Ellis, the former Cowboys D end, and he also played for the Raiders. I met him at a Pro Bowl many years ago. He said it took him 2 years to get his Achilles right when he tore his Achilles.
Huh? I've heard that as well.
Yeah, and what Brandon did is incredible. And I get the sentimental part. Let's put this to the left. Let's just talk about the performance. You're not walking away from that performance. He was unreal in that role. I give Gannon credit and Howie obviously for re-signing him. But who the hell knew he'd play that well?
Yeah, and then for the most part, look, especially if Slay comes back, you've got the components to be able to have your pass rushers be good again. You have Sweat back, you have Reddick back, you have Cox back, you have Graham back.
Go.
I mean, you lost one big pass rusher in Javon Hargrave.
Yeah, that's big.
Whose sacks sort of came in strange spurts, by the way. I would say that Reddick and Sweat were far more consistent in their pressure generation, but with those corners coming back too, we know how important they are to the pass rush as far as holding their coverage for a couple of seconds, it should be all right there. We'll see what happens.
Honestly, if BG, who turns 35 in April, if he only had 5 sacks, but he had a lot of impactful plays. He
Right.
did. If he didn't, I'd say goodbye. I don't care. Forget the sentimental part. You can't be handing out charity money. The guy's got to earn it. He sure as hell did.
Yeah.
He's incredible.
Did you say how many sacks did you say he had?
I think he had 11, but I'll double check.
Yeah. All right. For some reason, I thought you said 5, but you're saying if he had 5, then it's a different story,
right. If he had only 5 and it looked like he clearly was not the same, great career, Eagle Hall of Famer.
Right.
Love him. One of our favorite people ever. But, it's just, you can't just bring back guys because you're sentimental. Howie's right. That is hurt. Yeah, he did have 11 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. But the thing that I liked is he just was consistent from game to game. And he took to that reduced role really well. I mean, that's why he's able to do it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And look, you and I both know, and probably 90% of our listeners know, that when the Eagles are done with this offseason and this draft, there's going to be more defensive linemen added to the mix.
Oh,
you
great
know
point.
it.
You can't settle. In fact, that's the thing about this. Okay, a lot of older players are coming back. Kelsey's coming back. BG's coming back. Cox is coming back. Slay, maybe, as you said. Bradberry's going to be back now. We haven't got that structure. Knowing the way the Eagles do deals, it most likely be a 2-year structure. It means no fully guaranteed money in the 3rd year. Well, I can't see how they would do that because quarterbacks now are barely getting fully guaranteed money in the year 3. So
right.
Logic tells you so. But they can't. They just cannot. One of our guys brought this up in the chat. That's great that they're bringing these guys back. They're still at the top of their game, but you can't let that cloud your vision that Father Time catches up with these guys. You've got to, those 2 first-round picks, if they use them, got to be at corner, as you said, D-line. Alignment's probably coming if they trade down and get an extra 2 or something, whatever, or get an extra 3. They're going to address the offensive line. This is why they build this thing so well, because they always go for the lines. You're right. I'd be shocked if they didn't. But
and there's, by the way, there's names out there that you can probably get on a good 1 year, like a Jerry Tillery or a Quentin Jefferson, Derek Noddy. But I'm talking about just a 1 year.
No, Tillery re-signed with the Raiders. Yeah.
Oh, did he? He resigned? I missed that one.
Yep.
Okay, my bad. But
but the
other
guy
down
you mentioned,
Warmly, they could even bring Sue or Joseph. There's names. There's guys.
No, you're right. The kid from the Chiefs you just mentioned, Derek Noddy's a good player. He's been hurt a little bit, but they're good. Okay, so real quick, because we had a couple questions about that. It's a super buyer's market at linebacker.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it is a super buyer's market. You could wait forever. Now, D tackle's starting to be picked over, but as you said, there are a bunch of guys still there. Morgan Fox, he's off the board, but there's still like 10, 12 guys you could do. So it's early, folks. And remember now, free agency, part of free agency is re-signing your guys. And this is pretty significant. I got a little worried for Eagle fans when we were at the Combine when Howie kept talking about comp pick. I'm like, dude, I think to myself, are you really going to walk? Because I saw this out there and I have no problem with it because I had the same thought. Are you really going to walk away from like 15 players? Like, what are you doing?
Right.
And he didn't.
No, but he is walking away from several. So that are going to help him in the comp pick. We'll get to that in a little bit. I want to get into Bradberry coming back. Before we do that, let's just pause real quick for a word from our great sponsors. All right, so James Bradberry. Now, the intel that we had that came out either last podcast or the one before was that we knew the Eagles wanted to be informed. It wasn't going to be like a situation where, how he said there are certain guys he's not even going to make an offer to because he knows that, the intel we had was that the Eagles wanted to make it work with Bradberry. They knew there'd be a market for him, but they wanted to see what the number has. And I think what we had said was that, they wanted to make sure that nothing was done without them at least, getting one last crack at it. So if you listen to what James Bradberry said, he said he had some better offers out there, but he took the Eagles offer. Now, I will say this. Sometimes players say this, and I'm not saying they're wrong, but that makes people think like, oh my God, he was offered like 16 million. What he wound up signing for was 12.6, right?
Yeah.
And people were like, oh, maybe he turned down like 15, 16, 17. Sometimes, like we reported last year with Marcus Williams, right? It's pretty much the same offer, but the state that you sign in might have no income tax, and so you save a lot of money, a couple extra million just on that alone. Now, maybe not a couple extra million, but you get what I'm saying.
Like Vegas with Marcus Epps, for instance,
Right.
that they have no state income tax. Sure.
Right. So, who knows if James Bradberry turned down, make up a number you want, 15 million a year.
Yeah.
I don't know to take it. But the bottom line is it felt like he wanted to be an Eagle and the Eagles made it happen with a respectable enough offer.
Yeah, it's 3 years of 38 million. I'd like to see that how much full guarantee at signing is in year 2.
Right.
But he was of the UFAs. He was our top guy, and he got right now see the guys are out there. A lot of them are older, like Marcus Peters at 30. Well, Shaq Griffin got cut. Ron Darby got cut. William Jackson got cut. Byron Jones got cut. He may not be able to play again. Rock Cassino has been a disappointment. He's the guy, and I'll admit though, I didn't think he'd be coming back. I just didn't. I didn't get the sense that they would go. I'm surprised they went this high, 12-6. I get it's all about guaranteed signing. I understand that, but man, he's 30 years old, and talking to other teams, he's not for everybody in terms of he's got to be in the match, carry, deliver scheme. He's not a great man cover corner, although as Greg said, Eagles did some man, and he handled himself okay.
Right.
But Giants man, no. This idea was going to go back to the Giants. I don't know where that came from. they were not in the ball game for him. People are just saying on Twitter maybe he can come back because I guess someone asked him. It doesn't. Right. He just doesn't fit. That's why they got rid of him, because he doesn't fit the man scheme, a heavy man scheme.
I think maybe, again, my speculation, what might have made it work, Adam, was that the overall cornerback market was manageable, free agent market. Jamel Dean got the most per year, was $13 million a year. If Darius Slay is making 17, right, and he's a Pro Bowl corner, and you can sign a 25-year-old Jamel Dean for 13 a year, AAV, I think that helped the Eagles. Because let's say Dean got 17 or 18 or more, and really sort of got the way Bates got a ton of money for the safety market, right? Then all of a sudden Bradberry's probably looking at just under that, and maybe that's not doable at that point for the Eagles. But 12-6 a year, that's
really good.
That's really good. Yeah, I think
good for him.
I think it helped that there was not a real like elite corner on the market, and also probably I don't think there were any elite corners that were up for extensions this year that reset the market at all. You'd have to tell. I bet you can look it up real quick, right? Like what's the cornerback market looking at right now as far as who makes the most per year? I know. Did Ramsey get an extension when he got traded?
Yeah, they redid it. I haven't got the numbers yet. Yeah, they had to. By the way, go ahead.
I was going to say, do you remember what the sort of initial report on that was?
I don't know. Okay. I'm not even going to guess. But with Jamel Dean, he's actually older than I thought. He by the way, he turns 29 in October.
Dean? I thought he was 25. Are you sure?
Am I looking at this right?
Jamel Dean?
Yeah. Oh, wait, hang on. No, I'm sorry. He turns 20. I'm sorry. He turns 27 in October. 27.
Okay, so he's 26 now. All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, here I have this, right? Average per year. I mean, Jair Alexander's on 21, Denzel Ward's 20, Jalen Ramsey 20 before the extension. So that's the top of the market. Xavier Howard 18. And none of these guys who are in the top 5 or 6 are up against a new deal now. So no one's going to be resetting it to even like 24, 25, 26. I guess we'll see what Ramsey wound up making. But the point is, I think it was a good year to need a free agent corner because you can get one economically.
Yeah.
So that helped the Eagles.
Yeah, the two best were Bradberry and Dean. Dean, a little younger, not as proven as Bradberry. Bradberry played very well early in his career with the Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
And, unfortunately, he played in the wrong scheme with the Giants, so it just didn't work in the end. And Dean got a 4-year deal, by the way. That's the other thing. Bradberry signed for a 3-year deal.
Right.
And Dean got almost, not all of it, but mostly his second year fully guaranteed. 9 of the 12 million was fully guaranteed at signing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure they mirrored that. That's what teams typically do, but that's that. And BG, by the way, 1 year, all the money is $5 million fully guaranteed is what it was sent to me. I
Okay.
guess it was reported $6 million total. I don't know where the other
No, I
million.
thought the report was that it was had the upside was 6, not that.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because
Yeah.
I'm looking at the breakdown for I know people like this stuff, so I'll give this real quick, then we'll move on.
Mm-hmm.
BG, it's the sign 3.83 million, 1.165 million. There's your 5 million. Has a dummy year of cash in 24. I don't know why. 25 through 27 void. It maybe it's a similar situation like Kelsey had to have a dummy salary in there. I don't know. It's very I've seen this in a couple deals, and yeah, the full guarantee. So that's fair. And Brandon took a fair deal for turning 35 this season. It's but he's still. In fact, I don't think there are incentives in here. I wish there would be because he's so good. I mean, 11 sacks last season.
Yeah.
He's defying age, man. This doesn't happen, but it did last year.
Crazy stuff. All right, so that's the story of James Bradberry. He is back, and he will be an Eagle, and that's good. It's good for the Eagles to be able to get him back. Now let's talk about someone the Eagles did sign. All right, from
signing.
elsewhere. They're only signing from the outside. Very typical Eagles fashion, right? A high upside guy who's had some obvious struggles with health. We'll get into that in a second, but 1-year deal, which is not going to be hurting them in the comp pick formula. It's Rashaad Penny. And Adam, I knew Penny's numbers were good when healthy, but what I didn't realize was how good he averages over 6 yards per carry, which is sort of obnoxious. No, actually, I think it's like 5.7, but he had 2 years that he averaged over 6 yards per carry. That's pretty obnoxious.
It's crazy. Let me give you the background for my Seahawks sources on this. So Pete Carroll made the call in 2018. It was shocking. The Eagles, I think, might have had a 2 on him. Most teams had a 2.
Yes.
He's out of San Diego State. Now, he was heavy when they drafted him. He was in the mid-230s when they drafted him. And he's been on IR 2019, 2021. He had an ACL injury. Then I'm told he had scar tissue, so he had a cleanup. He was never right. He went off, and people play fantasy know this. He went off he led the NFL in rushing maybe over the final 5 weeks of the 21 season. He just was incredible.
Yep.
And what happens is he's not a power player. He's a finesse size player who doesn't play to his size. He's not a high volume carry guy. You have to be careful. He's had he had broken leg last season, ACL. He's also, I'm told, he's missed time in games, inside games where he gets hurt, doesn't come back. He's never played a full season. This is what we call a make good deal. They certainly could cut him if he doesn't play well. It's not like they give him $5 million fully guaranteed to sign where they have to keep on the roster. I don't have the full breakdown yet. I know it's less than $2 million, which tells you definitely cut him. Yeah. You wouldn't lose any sleep over it.
Right.
But obviously they want him to be the lead back, whatever the hell that means. Is it 10 carries, 12 carries? Nobody can answer that. But I love this signing. This is such an Eagles signing. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
I mean, this is just their newest Jordan Howard, like a runner who's gets hurt a lot, but can be very, impactful when he has the ball in his hands and is healthy. I mean, it's such a vintage Eagle signing. I feel like people are going to get excited about him, and they should. I'm kind of excited about the idea of, like, what if he stays healthy? Because when he's healthy, there's no doubt about it. He's very, very productive. But I think his running style might also lean toward why he gets hurt. He's kind of an upright runner, if I'm not mistaken. So a lot of times those upright runners get a lot of hits to the knees and the thighs. So we'll see. But I want to just reiterate that, because it came to me again in the last day or two, even though Penny's here. Coaches really liked Trey Sermon last year. So don't forget about Trey Sermon. He's a legit, what they really liked was how he practiced last year. Okay. Even though he's not getting any carries, even though he's not playing in his games, his attitude was good and he practiced hard. And that meant a lot to the coaches because they know he's a 3rd-round pick who had a weird situation there in San Francisco and had 2 nice carries, right? 17 yards, and then never really saw the field again.
2 for 21, I think, something like that. against the Jags in the rain, and he looked good.
Yep.
I mean, I thought he would have played, but let me get back to Penny. I want to give people an idea of how incredible he was.
Mm-hmm.
So he finally got healthy. Okay, he didn't play early in the season; his knee wasn't right. He got healthy mid-season. This is incredible. Starting week 13, 16 for 137, 2 touchdowns, 11 for 39, 17 for 135, 25 for 170, 23 for 190. They rarely throw it to him. That he's not a receiving back. He's not real comfortable in it. You can do it, but he's just not going to do that much. He's unreal on toss sweep, just tosses. And he's patient, then he hits it. His straight line speed is ridiculous for a guy. He's somewhere in the 220s, we're told. We don't know if it's 227, 225, I couldn't tell you. But it's worth a shot. I cannot wait to see him in OTAs. So to set it up right now, as we speak, they have 5 backs. Gainwell, Penny, Scott, Sermon, as you said. We know they want to take a look at him. And Kennedy Brooks, who we'll see if he even makes the training camp, but you really need to have 5 backs in training camp. You can't do it with 4. You're asking for trouble.
Right.
And by the way, it does not preclude them from drafting a running back in April. It doesn't.
Not at all.
Because there's Scott 1-year deal, Penny 1-year deal, Sermon, who was claimed off waivers, Brooks, long shot to make it. Kenny Gainwell, by the way, folks, this is the 3rd year of his 4-year deal. So
yeah, it's a big year for Kenny Gainwell, right? Big year. Big year for him. That'll be interesting. All right, so let us move into players who were Eagles but signed elsewhere, and there are quite a bit of them, and this is why the Eagles are going to do quite well in the comp pick formula. You mentioned Miles Sanders. I was wondering, once we got toward Wednesday, right, and really, I think Montgomery signed Tuesday night or something like that.
Yes, for $6 million a year.
For $6 million a year, but that was like kind of late in it. I'm like, that's interesting. What's Miles going to get? And the longer it went on, I was thinking he was not going to get a great deal, and he didn't get a great deal, but he got a pretty good deal for
considering.
All things considering for the Panthers.
And the market is bad for running.
Which, by the way, I predicted with you in a side.
Oh, great call, by the way. So Geoff texted me Tuesday. I can't remember what. I know you said I'm just going to guess here. I think Sanders will go to Carolina. I'm like, really? Okay, because they're trying to get a Foreman back, and Foreman I'd heard from other teams is asking for between $5 and $7 million. I'm like, he's not getting that.
Right.
With his injury history, Miles Sanders has been way more productive. I don't know where. I get it. He looked great filling in for McCaffrey when McCaffrey was traded. But anyway, so Montgomery got 3 years at $18 million, so $6 million a year. 11 million total guarantees. It's somewhere about maybe 8 or 9 million fully guaranteed at signing. So I'm like, well, Montgomery's also had an injury history. If Miles could get 6, more power to his new agent. He moved to the guy a couple years ago. I thought he'd get 4.5 to 5. He got 6, which was reported. I have no idea what the breakdown is. A legit 6. We'll have to see, but he got 4 years. I know that. And we'll see what that $6 million looks like. But and the bottom line is right now, when you look at that market, Sanders got 4 for 25. That was reported, just over $6 million. But we don't know the real guarantee. Dillard got 3 for 28.5. I saw that deal. It's all about the first year. But 9 for a team that this year right now, as long as Henry's not traded, I don't see how Dillard's a good fit for that scheme.
I completely agree with you. It's one of the first things that we talked about when it happened, that there are some players and certain teams that the fit just doesn't seem right. Andre Dillard came out of college, a finesse player. He struggled with the Eagles his first 2 years. Yes, he's put on weight. Yes, he has said he's mentally tougher. Yes, he played a couple of snaps at guard and handled himself there. So I'm not telling you I don't think he's bigger or stronger and tougher, because he clearly is, but to be a starter for that downhill rushing team, for that coach, Mike Vrabel, who, kind of old school lunch pail, that's the whole mentality of the Titans. Andre Dillard doesn't seem to fit that yet. So, I mean, maybe he'll surprise us all. Well, but I felt that was a little odd fit.
I am told they're going to change the scheme now with, believe it or not, it's not that they don't want to run the ball. They'll want to, because you're right with Vrabel, but he wants to be more modern, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how the hell is this going to work with Henry. From what I've heard, he wants to be more, not a spread, but he wants to be more forward thinking with passing the ball. And they might go to wide zone instead of more. They were doing a lot of gap scheme.
So a more
So
Shanahan-like offense.
could
That's
be,
interesting.
yeah, could be. So, and Tim Kelly has some of that stuff in his background as the new OC. So we'll see. But again, how you have to count for Derrick Henry, you have to run the ball a lot. So
Yeah.
I don't know how this is going to work. But one thing I do want to say about Penny, see, Pete Carroll, as some of these defensive head coaches will do, they'll grind running backs. They don't care. Herm Edwards did the same thing
Yes.
when he was head coach. They'll run it like they ran Penny way too much and they grinded him down. And
yep. Pete Carroll is the Dusty Baker of NFL running backs, the way Baker is with major league starting pitchers. Just throw them out there. 300 innings.
Right. Which is not supposed to be happening these days in MLB. So anyway, those are the two in offense. And Hargrave got 4 for 84, 21 million per season, 40 million fully guaranteed signing, but it's the first 2 years. Then they can get out of it. So it's really 2 years at 41 million. I think there's a little bit I think there might be some guaranteed workout bonuses, but they can get out of it. So they could get out of it for paying him 42 million over 2, but they don't have to pay him that other 58 million.
Well, it makes a little sense because in 2 years, the Niners may actually have to start paying a quarterback once they decide which one is going to be their quarterback. In 2 years, Brock Purdy might be up for that 3-year extension, or Trey Lance will be up for after a 4-year with that 5th option. You'd want to give him the extension then. So that'll be a good time to get out of maybe the Hargrave contract if they need to.
Yeah, we'll see. They may need to, but the one that surprised me is Kaiser White, and I get it. This is okay. Here's a guy that went to a coach. We knew this was going to happen. Someone's going to go somewhere where there was a former Eagle. So Gannon got one of his guys who will start an inside linebacker. 2 years, 10 million, 6 million fully guaranteed at signing. Is the breakdown. So he leaves. T.J. Edwards. Now this is interesting. Well, I know you have some thoughts on this.
Mm-hmm.
Edwards took. We really thought, and I'm sure if he wanted to, he could have gone somewhere else and got more. But 3 years, 19.5, 7.9 million fully guaranteed signing. What are your thoughts? Why would he go? And by the way, he's not going to play middle linebacker because Terrell Edmonds is going to do that.
Right. This is, well, first of all, my thoughts on the Bears are like when everybody builds around pass rushers and offensive tackles, and the Bears really need to be building around that. Of course, they build around middle linebackers. Like, go figure. This is what the Bears do. I will say, of all the contracts that the Eagles opted not to match or play with, that one surprises me because it was a good market for buyers on linebacker. I mean, obviously Edmonds making 18 million a year is huge. That you can't compete with, but 6.5 a year for TJ Edwards, for a team that paid Bradham, it was kind of funny money. It was up to 8 million for that year, and it was really only 1 year. But this guy's younger and probably has played better. Yeah, he's played better than Bradham this past year, or TJ Edwards did. I'm just surprised that he didn't try to get him on maybe a 2-year deal for that.
I have no idea. To be honest with you, I have no idea if you may know more than me. We thought he would be leaving. He did, but we have no idea what they offered. If they offered,
that's true. I don't know what's offered.
I have no idea.
I'm just surprised that 6.5. I just felt like all I knew is that he wanted to be. His preference was to be with the Eagles. So if he didn't, then I have to assume that they didn't really offer him close to that. But
no idea. But
he's from Chicago, by the way.
That's it. Isn't he from? You just said it.
Yeah, he is from Chicago.
That to me trumps a lot. In fact, I remember the Bears Twitter says, "Oh, he's back home" or something. Oh, wow, he's from the Chicago area. Well, yeah, he played at Wisconsin. Maybe they hit his heartstrings. No, our point wasn't. Before we move on to Edwards, he liked playing here. A lot of these players love playing here. They love the fan base, love the area, lots to do.
Mm-hmm.
And this is all he knew. This is the only team he knew happened to be the Eagles. But I remember someone who knows him very well said he didn't think the Eagles would pay him. But again, to be clear, we have no idea if the Eagles made an offer because they know Dean had to start, and it didn't seem like Kaiser White was going to come back. He didn't, and Dean will be a starter, and we'll see what the other inside backer job. And we're told absolutely the running Fangio, Desai's version of it. We'll learn more the offseason, what that looks like, and so here are the guys. It's Dean Christian Ellis. He's a fun football player. I want to see. Did very well in limited time. Obviously, he's great on specials. I'm not saying he'll could be competing for the other job next to Dean, but let's just see what happens, and maybe they add someone late in free agency, like last year. Kaiser White signed April 5th, 1 year,
Yeah.
$3 million. Who knows?
Oh, and there's like a million linebackers out there, right? There always
Oh,
are.
great call. Here you
can
go.
find a good. And it's weird because a gajillion of them have signed. There must be like 25 free agent linebackers who've signed.
Okay.
That many. I mean, there have been a ton, but there's still a lot more.
All right, real
In
quick.
fact, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm going to go on where you just said. Van Der Esch resigned. Eric Kendricks got cut, signed by the Chargers. Levante David resigned. Edwards to Chicago. David Long, who I love, is a big-time tackler, signed somewhere else. Cole Holcomb signed somewhere else. Alex Singleton, boy, got a nice deal. He got a 2-year structure. I was shocked that they did that. Good for Alex. Great story. Cody Barton signed somewhere else. Alex Anzalone resigned. Kaiser Way, we talked with. David Mayo resigned. Robert Spillane signed a backup inside linebacker. Jared Davis resigned with the Giants. Nate Gary resigned with Washington.
Unbelievable.
And EJ Speed signed somewhere else. So, and here are the guys. Okay, before we move on, the veteran, the journeymen are out there. Corey Littleton, who made a ton from the Raiders years ago.
Yep.
He's out there. Damian Wilson got cut by the Panthers. Denzel Perryman.
Yep.
Kamu Grugier-Hill. Landon Roberts. These are all inside linebackers. Jaion Brown is a smaller backer.
Right.
Sean Evans.
Devin Bush is out there, right?
Devin Bush is out there. Has been a disappointment. He had an ACL years ago. Troy Reader. Dylan Cole. Micah Kaiser. Anthony Walker, who's had a lot of injuries, but is a big-time leader. Mac Wilson. John Bosta, who's probably going to go to television. He's awesome on radio.
How about that? Okay.
I love Zach Cunningham who got cut. I cannot believe Drew Tranquil is not. Wow, with Eric Kendricks going to, I'm surprised the Chargers didn't re-sign him yet. Oh, Bobby Wagner.
Yeah, Bobby Wagner. There's literally a zillion linebackers out there. So
I can't count that high. There might be 27. Oh, Kwiatkowski's out there.
That's right. He was once paid by the Raiders too, wasn't he?
That's right. You don't pay 2 linebackers. Off the ball linebackers? What are you doing?
Only the Bears, man. Only the Bears. All right. So I wouldn't worry about that. The Eagles will just have to continue their long-standing tradition of a 1-year stopgap. Now, Kaiser actually worked. The Eagles, he broke the streak of guys who didn't work. Now, his play also tailed off at the end. But, if Nakobe Dean's good enough player, then they should be all right there. Again, we don't expect the Eagles to be as great as they were last year on defense. They might be, but they might take a little bit of a step back.
One more. Yeah, one more. And then Marcus Epps. Now, he's from California, no state income tax in Las Vegas. So he he got 2 years at $12 million. At signing, 5.15 fully guaranteed. It's a little, I'll be honest with you, the teams are telling us he wanted more than that. I don't know what convinced him to sign there. Hey, it's still $6 million a year. There's some fully guaranteed money in year 2, which would make the Raiders think about it. But so he's gone. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys were gone. Okay. And then they re-signed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay.
Now, the way the comp pick formula works is not an exact science. But we know enough about it to say, look, the Eagles only signed 1. It's about net gains versus net losses. And just so everybody knows, because I have a feeling we were going to get this question asked, if you re-sign one of your players, even after he hits free agency, like James Bradberry or like Fletcher Cox, it does not count against you. And it's not like you're signing a free agent.
Correct.
So anytime you sign it doesn't matter whether he's a free agent, whether you get it done before or after. So really the only outside free agent the Eagles signed is Rashaad Penny to a 1-year deal so far. And the ones that they've lost, as you just mentioned, Sanders, Dillard, Hargrave, White, Edwards, Epps. So now I think the way it works usually, Adam, is the Penny one will get canceled out by probably what's the lowest one they sign? Epps or White?
So far. White,
because you're White. So those might cancel each other out. Yeah. But the biggest contract, Hargrave, might it should net them a 3 based on
Oh,
precedent.
has to. I
Yeah.
mean, barring, I mean, look, never say never. I mean,
Right.
I don't know who they could because their plan has been what we thought it would be. They'd sit the early portion out in terms of
Mhm.
spending decent money. They haven't spent any money on. I mean, the Penny one less than 2 million is nothing.
Right.
So
So the that'll get him a 3, and then I would think that you could probably get either a 4 or a 5, high 5 from the Dillard contract, which is what, 9 million a year?
9.5. Yeah.
9.5. Yeah, that's pretty significant.
Hmm.
So that'll probably get you a 4 actually, and then Sanders and Edwards and Epps could get you some 5s and 6s there.
Yeah, I'm just interested to see how they've been a little bit more aggressive than we thought in signing their own guys, which is great. That again, that's a major part of free agency. It's not like they signed a bunch of scrubs. I mean, it's not like they signed like their 90th, their 85th, 86th, and 87th guys. They sign starters. Like that's huge. I mean, I give them credit. Plus, Scott's a really good backup.
Mm-hmm.
So very aggressive. That's great. And again, I'm pretty convinced they're trying to run it back, whatever that means.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think that
win.
they're trying to be as aggressive as they possibly can, right? I mean, within knowing that they have to pay, what's his face? They're gonna have to pay Jalen Hurts, right? So I can't believe I said what's his face, knowing that they have to pay Jalen Hurts money, that they're still able to do these things. So, all right, we got a few more guys to talk about. Some guys who are in limbo right now who have Eagles ties, and we'll get to them in a second. First thing we want to do is let you know about our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams for the fan, by the fan. That's their motto. So make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. And we'll also pause real quick to hear a word from our good friends at Sky Motor Cars.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schulter makes sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
All right, if you happen to stop in at Sky Motor Cars, make sure you tell them Adam and Jess sent you. You will get a great deal. All right, so there are still some guys, some unfinished business guys here. Gardner Minshew is one. Zach Pascal is one. And surprisingly, Adam, Isaac Seumalo is one, which I think I understand why. And we'll get into that in a second. But no, let's start with Minshew first.
Okay. So they have interest in bringing him back. He's got, as I understand, a lot of interest out there. He really wants to go somewhere he can compete for a starting job. It's just the thing is, a lot of these opportunities are drying up. So, I never do percentages. I went from thinking like they're just not going to happen because there should be something out there for him where he can at least come and compete. Right now, they're on a lot of opportunities, so we'll see what happens with them. Wouldn't rule it out. They have interest in bringing him back.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Ian Book, of course, who they like with the look team. Did a good job with that. They want to see him a little bit, continue that role here. But if Minshew doesn't come back, it's still a buyer's market. Let me give you the names that are still out there. Brissett's gone, but there is Joe Flacco. There is Cooper Rush, Mariota, who was cut. Josh Dobbs, who did a great job and being thrown in there. Blaine Gabbert, Mason Rudolph, Chase Daniel, who's doing TV. PJ Walker, Nate Sudfeld, Nate Peterman, Josh Johnson, Jeff Driscoll. That's enough.
How's Mr. Peterman doing? That's great.
Not very well.
No.
Oh, wait. Oh, from Seinfeld? Yeah.
Yeah, Peterman.
Yeah.
All right. So interesting. All right. We'll see. We'll monitor that. Because I'm curious the direction they go in if they don't bring back Gardner Minshew. Do they look for someone who runs the offense the exact same way? Or do they just want the best available backup quarterback? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like if it was Joe Flacco, they're not running zone read. I mean, they're not running read option with quarterback keepers, with Joe Flacco.
He did a good. He played well last year. In fact, he single-handedly the Cleveland game where they crazy comeback Jets at Cleveland. He was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
He gets this bad. Oh, it's Joe Flacco. He's not. You know how fans get sometimes, but he's a good backup quarterback. I mean, the numbers don't look great, but folks, you can't take a number. You have context is everything. You have to see who he's playing with.
Right.
Some of the talent that he's playing with is just really bad in some of the teams he's been on in recent years. But I mean, now Cooper Rush did a good job, not against the Eagles, but he did a good job being pressed in the service. Boy, did he do well against Minnesota a couple of years ago. But look, I forgot Teddy Bridgewater's out.
Teddy Bridgewater. Okay. Interesting. So yeah, there's a variety of guys. Zach Pascal, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I'm not trying to be degrading, but slot receiver, dime a dozen.
The enforcer, though.
He is the enforcer. They do love him, but we'll see. Yeah. So Isaac Seumalo, Adam, he's one of these guys that we talked about is really in line to get a big contract. And listen, there are no lies here. Like we reported, there were teams that had him as the number one center, number one guard. I think you had someone tell you that they thought he was athletic enough to play tackle. Yeah. And those type of guys usually do pretty well in free agency. But we did mention this. He has a significant injury history. Everybody has seen it. They know he's missed big parts of 3 years, I think, with the Eagles at times with various injuries. And so you saw a couple of guards got signed ahead of him, a couple of guards, a couple of centers. A couple of teams that need offensive linemen signed other guys, and you wonder if that injury history is what's really holding him back. It's not talent. I mean, some of the guys you signed are not as good as Isaac Seumalo. So it's either a case of the injury history. Maybe Seumalo is asking too much. I don't know. I don't know what he's asking for.
I don't know.
I have no idea. But it is kind of interesting that he's still out there, on the free agent market. Now, sometimes guys, Adam, when they go this long and don't get the deal they want, do that 1 year prove it deal thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would advise Isaac Seumalo with his injury history to take a 1 year deal playing that position. That's really, really risking it.
But I think what you really mean is if you're going to take a deal, you want, because if he's going to take multi-year deal, you want to get guaranteed money in the second year. That way they can't cut you.
Right.
Yeah, because that's really where he needs to go. If he's going to only do a 1 year deal, get a decent number. Mm-hmm. But the key is if he turns 30 this year, I think if he's going to do a multi-year deal because of his injury history and his age, he's got to get fully guaranteed money in year two because ironically, this is I think the first year they played a full season, 22.
Yeah, I was more referring to how like the way say Alshon Jeffrey bet on himself with the Eagles and signed that 1 year deal that was just 1 year. It was not even structured. It was just a 1 year deal to prove it. I don't think that's good for an offensive lineman who has an injury history to do. A wide receiver, maybe you can avoid hits better. Offensive lineman, that's a rough bet on yourself type of
these are different because Jeffrey bet on himself in his first year in free agency, and Alshon then probably was 20. I'm guessing he was like 27.
Yeah,
maybe. Isaac's now 29.
Right.
But I hear what you're saying. So anyway, this is what we've learned through this. This is from other teams. Mm-hmm. Just because you're the top player in free agency does not mean that you're going to get top money. Yes, his tape is the best out of all of them. That's been pretty universal from every team we talk to.
Mm-hmm.
But that injury history is costing him. There's no doubt. Plus his age, and he played a good. He's on that rung we've said right below Pro Bowl. He's just a good, solid football player with positional versatility to play guard and center. But he is still out there, folks.
All right, let's talk about the guy everybody's been asking us about every single day. And there are a couple of people who just like, what do you know about C.J. Gardner-Johnson? What do you know about? I'm like, I'm not in the business of hiding information here.
They want him back. They're trying. Yeah, that's all we know, folks.
That's not all we know.
It's the same as for weeks. They want the guy back. He'd like to be back. There are other teams interested. You had a great point. It's been backed up by other teams. They see him as a hybrid player. He's being penalized because he's a cornerback / safety. But here's the thing, folks. I'm pretty certain about this. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think all six picks happened at safety. They were not at slot corner.
Yeah, that's probably correct. I think you're right about that.
but he's being penalized. It's the strangest thing. He's so good. He's been a great story. They want him back. He's been humbled. I mean, he is not getting anywhere close probably to what he thought. He people are trying to figure out his tweets. Someone asked me, I'm like, I don't know the guy. What do you want me to tell you?
That is an exercise in futility right there.
But
if you're trying to parse his tweets,
he's a sharp guy. I know he as Greg Cosell said, Greg is a huge fan of his. We mentioned this a ton of times. He just has this ability from the back end to see it before it happens, and I really don't believe that could be taught.
He's a very smart player. Those who have been around him tell me that, underneath that surface of a guy who's agitating people on the field and maybe doing some crazy stuff on social media is that he's a really, really bright, smart player. So obviously, as you said, and we said, they want him back. I think the Eagles, I don't want to get burned by this because this is just my speculation here. I think the Eagles are playing this correctly because they didn't use the tag on him at $14 million. The only safety who have signed for big money is Jesse Bates, who's a multi-time Pro Bowl player, all-pro player. He signed for $16 million a year. Every other safety that has signed in that neighborhood of $6 to $8 million a year. And the word I got was, I don't think the numbers are out on Poyer's contract, but
they're not.
The word I got was it's somewhere in that 6 range as well. 6 to 7 range. So,
wow.
So
he is older, but yeah,
you're right. So it's, what's the market for CJ? Well, it's not 16, probably not 14, but more than 6 to 8. So it's probably in that 9 to 12 range.
I agree. He deserves it. I feel bad for the kid. He was so great. Not only would have been a Pro Bowler, would you, for Pro Football Writers, would you voted for him an All-Pro had he finished the season? Like, let's say he played 50.
God, of course. I mean, if he had finished with 8, 9, 10 picks, sure. Or even if he didn't finish, yeah.
See, you notice the people watch his tape, they don't care that he missed some tackles. It's just there's no perfect player. He's just a really good player. What a find. And Eagles, I'm sure, would tell us he was better than they expected.
Right.
But they're taking a bit. I give Howie credit. They've read this market well on him. Other teams have. The fact that he does not have a deal after the first 3 days is mind-boggling. But hey, the clubs read the market here, and the Eagles are trying to do it. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, you wonder if maybe he sees the return of Slay there with Bradberry, assuming that the Slay thing does happen, right?
Yeah.
Sounds like it's going to. And thinks, all right, I want to run it back with these guys. We were just in the Super Bowl, I'm getting a fair offer now based on what the market is telling me. So,
I would hope at least if it's 7 or 6, they fully guarantee it or something. Who the hell knows if it's 1 year or 2 years? But wherever he goes, if it's Philly, great, because they need him. He was incredible. They are clearly trying to run it back. I mean, Howie was right. I mean, he was telling the truth. You're not going to bring everyone back. He told the truth. He wanted comp picks, but I'm pleasantly surprised he's been as aggressive bringing his players back. Because he didn't act like that. He was so like every interview he did, comp. We can't bring everyone back. Like, that's why fans are going out of their mind. Yeah. Talk radio, right?
Yes. Yeah. They thought nobody was coming back. They literally thought nobody was coming.
Right. I mean, that's on him. He shouldn't. He just sometimes he gets a little carried away. But
well, in fairness, though, it's not like he knows Fletcher's going to take 10 a year. It's not like he knows that Bradberry is going to not take the best offer on the table potentially. So, I mean, you got to kind of prepare people for the reality.
That's
of
why he did it.
Yeah.
Because if the money, before we get out of here, that's a great point. Because think about it. If he said, we're going to get some of these guys back, and they didn't, then everybody would crush. See, you said that it didn't happen.
Right.
Social media. You're great point. Right.
Yeah. All right. So next podcast, I'm sure we'll have even more information on free agency, and
can't wait.
Maybe this Darius Slay thing will finally have resolved itself by the time we.
Let me tell you something. If they don't re-sign him, I'm done. Because even his wife she's great. We're back. Is it Jennifer? She's great.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, she's like, we're here. I mean, but Matt, can you imagine the mood in that house? Just like the mood swings from Darius and his wife and his family. Like, we're here, we're not here, we're here. Okay, we're here.
Howie, don't let the
are here, right?
Get this.
All right, that'll do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. As always, we thank you for flying with us inside the birds.